Hello and welcome. This is the red, the white, and the blue, your Sunday night football therapy chat, bridging both sides of the Atlantic. I'm John, and as always, I'm joined by Charlie and Stephen. How are you guys doing? What a weekend of football!
I'm doing good. And what a game, what a weekend of football. Crowds
You
are back.
gotta love the first set of games, right? Everyone is all every team is hopeful. They think they're gonna have a great season, right? And you can feel it, you can see it, the way they're playing, and it's very exciting football. And then you also have some disappointments, right? Some people fall flat, or some people the unexpected happens, or but the first weekend it's always a different animal.
Certainly is. Certainly is, and it's that optimism, isn't it? I think every fan goes into this weekend full of optimism, unless you're a Newcastle fan, obviously, or a Spurs fan. As a Spurs fan, as our friend Nick, who's still in denial over Spurs' great performance today. But do you know the thing I've noticed more than anything this weekend? To see the crowds back in each of the grounds, and the passion that's come from the terraces. That's just made it's made the football this weekend. It's been so brilliant, and the fans have really got behind their team when they've been at home, and I think that's showing in the stats this weekend. Was it 7 out of the 10 games were home wins, which is a real reversal from where we were at last season, where a lot of away teams were coming and doing well. But yeah, it seems to have been a little bit more sort of a home benefit. But what a few games just seeing the passion of the fans. What about you, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's great to see the fans back. I was driving up the motorway yesterday, and it was great to see the scarves hanging out the cars. Again, and seeing that, I forgot how long it's been since I've seen stuff like that. You're driving up the motorway, the fans, the away fans are travelling to the grounds, and they've got the scarves hanging out the windows and blowing away. It was great to see, and the atmosphere was brilliant. And the fact that we had more home wins than away wins over the weekend, it just goes to show. I know it's only one weekend. Last season, it was all because the fans weren't there. That's your home advantage, is the fans.
Yeah.
Of course, it was all just a tiny little bit of a preview to what real fans are like are going to catch on Anfield's first home field. Then you'll see the real home crowd. What the real home crowds are really like. They are. Yeah, I was impressed with Tottenham with all those flags. That looked.
Yeah, that was lovely, wasn't it?
Cool, and they were loud, and that was great.
Yep, brilliant.
Home field fans, never take for granted what a home field crowd can do to a game.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, how much energy do they get from all that noise and stuff, man? It's got to be insane being there.
And I think it's good, Steve.
Yeah, it's 12 man. And I said, like the reactor of the crowds, I said on Friday when we were doing our predictions that the player at Liverpool, Mane, he thrives off the crowds. I know we were away, but you've seen a difference in him. He looked like he was getting back to himself on yesterday. Because he does react off the crowd, and I think there's a lot of players who are like that. There really is a lot of players who are like that.
I think it's also worth mentioning as well. I know at one point last season we were getting really frustrated with Spurs, but to see Dele Alli playing today and to see Dele Alli playing as well as he did today, I felt, something there's one lad who's really sort of showing a former manager a thing or two, and actually proving his worth as a Spurs player. And I've got to say, I like stories like that. It was great seeing Todd Cantwell back in the Premier League with Norwich. Even with his silly little foul that he gave away by absolutely clattering one of the Liverpool players for his yellow card. But it's nice. I just think the whole thing has been superb this week. And I'm going to start off, and I'm not going to have a rant about referees. And I'll put it out there before we start talking about any of the games. The actual standard of refereeing this weekend has been absolutely superb. They've let things go that last season would have been pulled up and would have upset the flow of a game. And I was watching a couple of games yesterday where I think Mike Dean actually was the referee in one of them. But what they've seemingly done away with is that that little niggly foul where you're on the halfway line and someone's making a run and the attacking team actually got the advantage, and yet somebody decides to trip someone up, and then it blows for the free kick, and everyone in the defense, the defense gets a chance to regroup. They're seemingly allowing that whole pattern of play to see itself out, and it was brilliant. It's great to see, and it's actually great for the game because there's a lot more fluidity in it, and I think it will actually do away with that sort of, I can't call it professional foul, it's an unprofessional foul, where people are actually just deliberately taking players out just to try and get that sort of that regrouping time. And it's been an absolute delight to see that, and the fact that VAR has had nothing significant to do, and we haven't had any of those stupid lines drawn on the pitches just to annoy me. So all's good.
Those lines that come at a 5-degree angle, you mean, John?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm with you. I think refereeing this week has been brilliant. And I think they said in the commentary, the Liverpool game, that they have been asked, the referees, to take a lighter look at things, and not be so hasty on the decisions. But the VAR's played a lot less. The referees are starting to take the decisions on the pitch again, and VAR is being used when it should be used, which is the right thing. It's just that's what you want as a fan. You don't want this stopping the game and putting the silly blue and red lines on the pitch. You want the game to flow. You want them to keep going, playing the game, and that's what you pay your money for. And that's what you want to go and see. And I think every fan up and down the country this weekend, they'll still be happy. Well, unless you're an Arsenal fan, because they like them all.
Some of those games, they were definitely letting them play. There was like an old school rock'em sock'em type of more games. It's like I was a totally different feeling. I was like, yes, this is awesome. It's more like hockey than
that's what the English
style of soccer, which is.
But Charlie, that's what
and I like that.
You gotta let them play. Let them
love it. And they tried to take that away in recent years, and they seem to be allowing it to come back in. It was always when you played your European games, you were thinking, oh God, you give away loads of free kicks because you're used to playing. And you go to Europe, and then you get given a free kick against you for something that you wouldn't in the Premier League.
Yeah. I think there was a really interesting one for the Burnley goal in the Burnley-Brighton game yesterday, where there was 3 Brighton players, all of whom were not looking at the ball, and you had Tarkowski running into the box to try and meet the corner that had been taken, and Tarkowski actually just pushes this. I think it was Morpay. He actually pushed him over in an attempt to get to the ball from which he scored, and I think in past seasons that would definitely just been straightforward, gone to VAR, he's pushed the defender. But there is a new rule where if the defender is not looking at the ball, they are therefore not playing the game of football. And it was, I thought that was such a brave decision yesterday, and actually it set the tone for what I hope we'll get to see. And I know Potter, the manager of Brighton, wasn't very happy after the game, but actually if you're not looking at the ball, we'd be then ended up like in American football where you're actually employing 3 players just as sort of blockers to stop people from actually moving. And I think this has got to be a step back towards playing proper football. And I think for me, it's a real step in the right direction.
You should have the right to try to play the ball as an offense, right?
Yeah.
You have the right to get to that ball, and because or else they can just put 3 guys, make a little wall, sit there, and then if anyone touches them, they fall down, and then they get a whistle, and that's not right. You got to be just let them play.
Yeah, No, it was. It was good to see. Good to see.
I'll tell you what it might bring, John. It might bring people stop doing these silly little dives to get the free kicks all the time.
I think so too. I think so. I think it's going to. If we can get a few weeks of consistency of decisions, and the referee being as good as it has been this weekend, I actually think we'll see the stop of that little stupid foul to break up play. We'll see a less diving, and we'll see a little bit more of those really fantastic challenges that you loved in the past. 50-50, where that you've got a player on your team that'll go in hard, and that seems to have been a dying art in the past few years. So hopefully we get to see that back again. Nice sort of tough but fair. I'm not going down the line of the Roy Keane school of defending and tackling and Souness, yeah. But I'd like to see people going in hard, and it's part of the game. It's part of the game, and it's been lost. So
tackle, it's a good country tackle. Sets your weekend alight, doesn't it?
Yeah, certainly does.
All we've got to watch out, John, is as Liverpool and Everton fans here, the derby could go back to 12 stud lunch.
seven aside. Yeah, could be an interesting one.
Yeah,
but tell you what, guys, I'm gonna suggest that if we look at some of these fixtures from the weekend, let's try and start with the games today, because actually, I think there's been a lot said about Man City and the pursuit of Harry Kane, and once again, Pep's fallen short at Tottenham's new ground. He's 4 times he played there, and he got beat 4 times. So,
well, just a quick note. It's like, okay, Harry Kane, right? It looks from the first game, it's like Man United doesn't need him anymore, and Tottenham doesn't need him anymore. His price just went way down. I think, they both won without him.
It was interesting because at one point during the second half, the Spurs fans all started singing, "Are you watching Harry Kane?"
Yeah,
and I'm not well up on the way that Spurs are thinking about the Kane move or anything like that, but I think they're actually looking at somebody who, if he goes, it's going to be a lot of money that's going to be in the club's pocket. And today they didn't look as if they missed him.
Exactly. No. That's Klopp says that all the time. If he is a player that does not want to be on the team 100%, you're free to go. Go. Yeah. And that's how they should treat Harry Kane. If he doesn't want to be there, then let him go. You can definitely do a lot with the 150 million or so. Yeah,
and I don't know. I've said this before. I don't particularly rate Kane. Hey, Nick's in the chat. Hiya, Nick. We're talking Spurs, so it's your day of glory. Your day of glory. But I've got to say that I think Kane's overrated, and I think if you get any money for him, I think you should take it and see what you can see where you go. I certainly don't think. Certainly going back.
I think I said on Friday, John, when we were doing our predictions.
Yeah.
When I put Tottenham in the top 4, was the fact that losing Kane might just be a good thing. It might spur them on a different way. Yeah. And when you got players like Son in your team, who's just he just signed a new extension to his contract as well. He's not going to be that as missed as much as Spurs think he's going to be. In fact, when you've got a player like that he just seemed to be the one-man team, which they never have been. They're not a one-man team. But when you've got a player who brings in that much gravitas towards himself, maybe sometimes it's a blessing in disguise that that they actually want to go. I've seen teams where they've lost the star player, and they've gone on and done good things without them. So I don't know. Let's see. Like I say, I think they're going to finish in the top 4.
They could, right? But hasn't the last couple of years with Tottenham, their defenders been a big issue?
Yeah.
So it's like, why don't they use that Harry Kane? It seems like they had plenty of offense today, and they had a lot of inspiration. They're a very inspired team today. Take the Hurricane money and get some really, really shore up their defense, and they could be top 3.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant because I've gone from Friday night predicting that they'd be lucky to make the top 10, and actually on the basis of the performance against Man City today, I think you guys have done really well in actually getting Spurs in the certainly the top 5. Both of you were the top 5 of your predictions. So Spurs, I've got to say, Spurs were great, and the actual system, the system that they played today, I felt was more Spurs like, and I think from a footballing perspective, I know that I've criticised Mourinho in the past, but Spurs just looked a happier ship, and they looked as if they were enjoying playing football. And it doesn't take much, does it? And it's one of those ones where you actually feel that there's a big air of optimism coming from the manager. He's playing a style of football that he knows works, and. No, fair play to them. I thought they played City off the park, really, and I thought for all Spurs were so good. I thought City, once again, I think sort of squad selection and Pep he's trying to be too smart at times when actually he just needs to put his best team out. Don't rest all your best players. Go and get the result. Go and get the 3 points, and then you can start taking players off after an hour if you like 3 up. But seemed a bit odd today.
This is it with Mourinho. When Mourinho was at Spurs, he wasn't the right fit. That was probably the biggest mistake Daniel Levy's done in his tenure at Tottenham, and I would disappoint him because the style of football we had before he come was not a Mourinho type of style of football. Then he's tried to do defense. Sit back with the 11 men behind the ball, and then trying it on the counter. Spurs haven't got the players for that. Thankfully, because that's not the kind of football we want to see in the league. But they've got Nuno in now, and I do rate Nuno very highly. I think he's a brilliant manager. What he achieved at Wolves is second to none. And he's got a great style of play, and it'll suit Tottenham. It'll suit the players he's got. Dele Alli looked great again today, and Son obviously getting that goal. He just looked a much better team. Today. And I had a feeling that was going to happen. I know it's only one game, and I'm not getting excited about it, but I could just be like, I'll kick Man United out the top 4.
No, I've got to say, I think that I hope Nick's feel a little bit more positive about it than perhaps the whole of last season. And I think they're in with that's a great result to start. I think pretty much Spurs fans wouldn't have expected much from it. I'm gonna take us to the other game today because I know that Stephen, in your sort of promotion of the show tonight on Twitter, you used the hashtag Bruce out, and I've got to say, I've like I say, I have friends who are Newcastle season ticket holder. And Newcastle was so frustrating because they looked really good for 20 minutes, and then they looked so unfit. They just looked as if they were just straight off the beach, and they just looked as if they were just shot. And I've got to say, West Ham just again one team that you actually think not sure how it's going to go for them this season, but they looked absolutely superb today, and it was good to see them coming back from going a goal down. And actually, they didn't panic, and they were well worth their victory. 4-2 away at Newcastle, and obviously St James's Park was rocking. First game that that Newcastle were playing at home with the lovely new kit supplier, and just as a little bit of a diversion. If anybody, once you see this, you can't unsee it. But the actual Newcastle kit, because of the way the sponsor's name is on it, and they've got a collar. Actually, it's quite similar to this collar, but it goes down, and it looks as if every single player has got the number 4 on the front of the shirt, just above the sponsor's name. So maybe for next week I'll get a picture of that and we'll put it on. But it annoys me once you see it. It just annoys the life out of you. Right. And it's just like I'm looking at it's number 4. He's got number 4 on the front of his shirt. But Newcastle are going to have to do something quick because I've got to say, I quite fancy Steve Bruce. Fancies just a cruise around about January, February time, and I think he just his team selection today was bizarre. He had a bunch of defenders on the bench that I didn't quite understand why he didn't start with them, and he gave a goalkeeper his Premier League debut. Not sure. I really wasn't sure.
It must be something you're seeing in practice, then, right? Usually it's
Steve Bruce.
Like
Steve Bruce, though, isn't it?
yeah.
It's just like world of Steve.
Could it be, John? It could be one of these. Bruce out, Fat Sam in.
That's right. Maybe they have like a side contract going,
I know he's been there before, but come Christmas, they're going to be struggling. They're going to be struggling.
Do you know something? I would actually have said that I don't think Fat Sam would actually return there. But I know we said it on the prediction show that, I think every week we really do need to start, Fat Sam's been out of the job for a while now. We now need to start touting teams for him. So I'm going to suggest that for the first, certainly on this week, I think the Fat Sam Award, the Fat Sam CV gets posted to Newcastle first class in the morning.
That's brilliant. Newcastle get it. Newcastle get the Fat Sam Award this week. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like Bruce out, John, because I know you're not a big fan of Steve Bruce, like, you know what I mean. I thought we'll put that. I'm not,
and I've got to admit, I think there's a lot of Newcastle fans who feel exactly the same way, and I think as a fan base, they hate the owner that much that they've got used to the fact that the manager's lousy as well, and they're just, if they start giving Bruce a load of abuse, then it detracts from what they're trying to get Mike Ashley to actually kowtow down to, and they can't fight on both fronts in some ways, and it must be so frustrating having a useless manager, a useless owner, and just your first game of the season getting done at home 4-2. It's not the way you want your season to start, is it?
No, it's hell no. And to be honest with you, John, if I was a Newcastle fan, I wouldn't be concentrating on the manager anyway. I'd be concentrating on the owner, because if we got the owner out, the manager would get fixed automatically.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's where they're going. And it sounds bizarre, doesn't it? Because usually when things are not great, it's always the manager that gets it in the neck. But it's gone on too long there at Newcastle, and I think unless they're careful, I think as with another team that we'll probably come on to talk about shortly, I was watching a program. There's a great film on BT Sport if you're watching in the UK, and it's called Too Good to Go Down, and it discusses all of the teams in the past. Like the Forest after they won the European Cup, but when Man United got relegated, when City got relegated, there's teams in this league this season that if they're not careful, they certainly they're not. Nobody's too good to go down, and nobody's too rich to not go down. It depends on what your performance is on the pitch, and I think that to me is a really important one for Newcastle. They need points on the board, and not to rely on playing Everton twice a season so they get 6 off us.
Well, Everton were quite good yesterday as well, though, weren't they? Everton had a good result, 3-1 against Southampton. There, it was a good game.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking that at half time, though, Stephen. No. I was ahead in hands after Southampton had scored, and fair play to the lad Armstrong, who's come from Blackburn. They paid a few quid. I think they paid about 20 million for him. But to get off the mark with such a good goal, and I know we've mentioned again on Friday, we mentioned about Danny Ings, and I'd forgotten about this lad at Armstrong. But he looks to me the one that's the reason why they got rid of Ings. It's because he plays in exactly the same style. It's just a younger version, and actually it could prove to be a decisive bit of business. But to see Everton come back from a goal down was amazing. To see the reaction that the Everton fans gave Rafa at the start of the game was superb, and I take my hat off to everybody that was at Goodison yesterday, because it could have been horrible and it wasn't. And I actually felt that from there, the fans didn't start that panic button pressing after we went a goal down. The nervousness wasn't there, and Rafa actually changed stuff during the course of the game, and we've not seen that for years. Ancelotti never did it. Koeman never did it. There wasn't. I was saying to my kids last night, Ancelotti didn't have a plan B. Koeman never had a plan B. Big Sam certainly didn't have anything but plan A, and that was it. And that was it. But he changed the course of the game, did Rafa, and this is what you want from a manager. And I was so pleased to see it because he was using, and I hate Alex Iwobi with a vengeance, but he's making Iwobi a more effective contributor into the team. And he came off the bench. He was sent on with a job to do, and he did it, which is brilliant. And then his two cheap signings of Damari Gray and Andros Townsend actually did the job that they've been employed to do. So I can't grumble. I really can't. And I've got to say, what a great start to the season. I was expecting the worst, so I'll take 3 points. 37 more needed to avoid relegation.
Spoken like it. Blue.
I know, exactly.
No, you said something there. About Rafa, he changed the game and stuff like that. Me and Charlie both said to you on Friday, he's tactically aware. And don't forget, you mentioned Ancelotti there. In 2005, Ancelotti didn't have a plan B in 2005 either. But Rafa Benitez had a plan B, plan C, and plan D, and the all bloody came off. He is known, particularly amongst the Liverpool fan base, of being tactically aware and astute. He will make changes. And he'll make changes at the time of the game. You think, why is he making this change? And all of a sudden he does the change, and you see why he's done the change. He's a very...
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of Everton fans, changing it, he changed the starting 11. He realised that Richarlison just wasn't effective enough, but to make him go and play totally up front together as a pair and playing off each other it was what we've been crying out for, and it was superb. And then by doing it, Richarlison scored straight after half time, and then Big Dom managed to score a goal that was very reminiscent to one that Andy Gray scored in about 1985, where his nose was sort of scrubbing along the ground as he was a diving header, and it was just absolutely everything right in front of the Gladys Street, and I'm still can't believe that Decore actually managed to control the ball before whipping it into the goal for his goal as well. So it's just one of them days. I'll take it. I'm still
looking forward to the Anfield derby, because I'm looking forward to both sets of fans chanting Rafa Benitez.
Rafa, yeah.
I'm just waiting until the Everton fans start chanting the fat Spanish waiter again. You know what I mean? I
think the thing with Rafa, he can't afford not to be successful with us, because he's going to get it in the neck if it's not a positive start to the season, and to do what he did.
To be honest with you, I don't know whether he's been anywhere and not been successful.
Yeah,
he won the La Liga with Valencia. He come to Liverpool, won the Champions League. He won the he went to another club where he was hated, at Chelsea, and won the UEFA Cup with them. I think he did all right at Inter Milan. I don't know what trophies he won at Inter Milan. I can't remember. And then he went to Newcastle. Now, obviously, he didn't win trophies at Newcastle, but he was a success there. You're a success at Newcastle. The fans love you. You're doing
and you're a success if you're not getting relegated as well, because actually the standard of the players on the pitch for him at Newcastle was so limited that it really, he was just trying to basically sort of, square pegs into round holes and stuff like that. And I think he doesn't get the plaudits for what he did at Newcastle. And I think he was right to get out, because he wasn't being supported by the board. But I'll tell you, you guys must be happy with your win away at Norwich.
Oh yeah, well happy.
Could have been a bit of a banana skin, that.
It could have been, and to be honest with you, the way it started, Liverpool looked a bit sluggish to get started at the first 15-20 minutes. Norwich looked really sharp.
Yeah, they did.
Cantwell, what a talent! He looks really, really good. You know, they can't well at Norwich. But then Liverpool started getting into the strides in that 15, 20 minutes of the first half, into the second half, and then he just looked comfortable, Liverpool. Then he just, everything he seemed to touch, it was going their way. I mean, even when Norwich were on top at the start of the game, I thought Liverpool probably created the better chances. But what a start of the season. I thought we were brilliant. A really good, solid performance. It wasn't a blow them out of the world performance, but it was a good, solid start to the season, and it sets a good, nice little foundation for us to go on to next. As long as the first home game goes well, because we had a terrible home record last season, absolutely awful. I just want to see us get back to having that fortress Anfield, and that'll be great.
Yeah.
I think that'll change with the fans though as well. And I think
I'm not
you
going to be
know,
worried
I think
about
that's a big thing. I think for most teams, you know, Everton was shocking at home last season, and you know, it was one of them ones. You don't have the advantage of the fans being there, and certainly for Everton, I think it certainly helped yesterday. So
yeah, I did have a worry during yesterday's game. Is like during the Liverpool game, the first 20 minutes, I found it looked like Alexander-Arnold was too far up the field sometimes. You know, you're sitting. Sometimes it looked like Matip was playing right back. Sometimes over there, it's like, what is going on? Where Alexander-Arnold had to get his butt back. You know, he was almost like he wasn't coming back like he usually does. I think they fixed it. Like after 20 minutes, they did some type of adjustment where it wasn't as noticeable, but there was some times in the beginning of that game I was like, that's a problem. And then the new guy on the left back who took over for Robinson, I forget how to pronounce his name. Is it Simikas?
Simikas, I think.
Simikas,
yeah. That's how you pronounce it.
He made a couple of little errors, concentration errors. You know, that could have cost us big time. But he is quick, and he can cross them in like Robertson does. Which I've been on Robertson's case the last couple of seasons. He's had call it the Henderson tendency to pass the ball back instead of crossing it into the box. And he's been really irritating me, but you got to get that ball in the box more often than passing it backwards. That's what I think from the left side. That's what I've been seeing. And I was happy that he's not afraid to cross the ball in. He's not afraid to attack. He seems pretty quick too. If he gets more time, he's going to be he'll be challenging Robertson for that job.
Yeah,
he's a young kid. He's pretty good.
Definitely. He impressed me, Charlie, yesterday. I know we had like them couple of gaffes. I mean, one of them was we just stood at the ball and I was looking at him thinking, what are you doing? And another player took it off him. And, you know, it was good. I liked the way Milner came up to him after it. He was like straight away apologising. And Milner just came up and gave him a little slap across the back of the head. Yourself, well, yeah. You know,
really needed that. It's like, good job, Milner.
Yeah, I thought he's good. He looked good, and I think he'll be challenging Robertson in the next season or two. And what I was really impressed with was the strength and depth we had on the bench, even though we've hardly signed anyone. In fact, we've only signed one person, which is the defender, but we brought in Elliott. Elliott looks sharp in his 10-minute cameo that he's done. He looks like he's ready to step up now. He looks like he's done this pre-season. He looked really good in pre-season. But a 10-minute cameo yesterday, he looked like he's ready to step into the first team now and not have to go out on loan and really fill that gap in midfield.
Can you guys hear that lawnmower of my neighbor?
Yeah.
He's just wanting his moment of fame there, Charlie. That's all right. We can live with that.
Okay, so let me know if it gets too loud because I think he's doing his lawn now. So I'm planning on that when I was over for my porch.
Yeah, just I like Jota up front to start with Mane and Salah. Looked really good. Scored a goal. Then you bring Firmino on, and Firmino, like, he's got his mojo back. You know, he scored a goal himself, being in the right place at the right time.
You got to think that's not our strongest midfield.
No,
I wanted to start with Fabinho and Henderson, and then either Cater or Jones or whatever, that's going to be a strong midfield. The ones that we put in first yesterday wasn't our strongest midfield.
No, definitely not. I'm really happy with yesterday's performance. I just hope they just have that consistency now through the season and go through. But it's only one game. Let's not get too excited, because in a couple of weeks, Charlie, we put me down to our therapy session of a Sunday night and just moaning again.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's quite nice to look, because the first game on next weekend, which is a 12:30 kickoff in the UK. So nice early start for you next Saturday, Charlie. So it'll be 7:30 in the morning in the US. But it's Burnley at home, and I've got to say, Burnley-Brighton yesterday, it was one of those games that I thought it was going to be a 0-0 draw. I was convinced of it. And actually, it said an awful lot about where Brighton are as a team, because they came from a goal down to win the game. But Burnley looked well short. And I know, Charlie, you've got them in your predictions as finishing bottom of the league. And actually, for the first time ever yesterday, I began to actually see where you actually got that reasoning from. They looked really well short, and I've got to say, there's another player playing for Burnley who's been linked with Everton, a lad called Dwight McNeil. And for the second Brighton goal, he gave up running, and I just found that was inexcusable. Yeah. And then he started pointing at the left back. And I'm thinking, if I was the left back, I'd have gone and punched him one, because he was the one. He was totally to blame for it.
What they do when they're too tired or they're too something. That's when they start pointing. It's like,
But he'd made that mistake. He'd stopped running, and I thought, flipping heck. Tell you one thing. If Rafa's watching that, he's not coming to Everton anytime soon, because actually, That was criminal. He actually cost Burnley yesterday, and I'm pretty sure Sean Dyche will be kicking his backside for the next 5 days before they turn up at Anfield on Saturday. So, yeah, Burnley were disappointing. Brighton looked as if they could just be one of those teams that are going to be a thorn in the side of so many people.
Those teams are going to look better though when they're playing each other, because they're both. I think I have them both relegated.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Relegation clash.
It was a 6 point on the first day of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so those don't really. I don't think they're real games. So.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think as well.
Next week.
Yeah, I think as well. I'll pick up on Watford. Watford did their utmost as well yesterday to throw away a 3-0 lead against Villa, but they did hang on. And I've got to say that the lad Sarr, was it Ismail Sarr? He looked worth spending a few quid on. I tell you, he looked really fast, good on the ball, and Villa just looked clueless. And I was even digging out my prediction of thinking, oh, good grief. I think, again, Charlie, you've got Villa down at something like 14th or something. Stephen with 12th. I've got them in the top 10. And I tell you what, they absolutely stank yesterday. They were lucky. I think they were lucky to get the second goal. Ings got a penalty at 90+7. Which made it look a little bit better, but Watford did a job on them, and they did well. And again, it was nice. Yeah, and it was at the Grain. Yeah, but I think we knew that. And I'd forgotten about that in the predictions. But last season, when Grealish didn't play, Villa didn't win, and that was, they've not got over that. So they're going to have to learn very quickly.
They're going to have to get someone in, a player in. They've got £100 million there. They need to invest in a player for them to be able to.
I thought they'd done that in buying Buendia, but actually, I don't see where Buendia fits into their midfield. They didn't have a balance yesterday, did Villa, and I thought that was really it intrigued me, because they've always been a half decent side, but last season. They looked well short yesterday. So, but talking of teams in the Midlands, there was a little bit of a Midlands derby yesterday. Leicester Wolves, which Wolves actually did all right, better than I thought they would. Their new manager just take a bit of time for him to bed in, but they didn't disgrace themselves. Jamie Vardy goal for Leicester, and I think on the whole, I think Wolves fans are quite happy with the performance yesterday. They just need to put a few points on the board to make sure that they get up and running for the season.
It is hard at this. It is hard just after the first game to see where anyone's going to go. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you look at United, absolutely blew Leeds United away on Saturday 5-1. You know, does that mean they're going to go on and get into my top four? No, it doesn't. Just like it doesn't.
You're still sorting that.
How old is Vardy now? You know how old Vardy is now?
I don't know. He's probably. He's probably 40 or something. He just keeps drinking his Powerade and all that.
Thinking, how much longer can he last?
He's brilliant. He's absolutely just knows where the back of the net is. And
he's 34.
34, okay.
34. So they probably got this season out of him, maybe next. But he's 34 and he's still going. He's still putting the goals away. So it says a lot about the quality. I don't think that's ever going to
Yeah, we touched on Man United Leeds there for a second as well, and just a little heads up to you because this could be next Sunday's show. Everton are away to Leeds next Saturday, so obviously Leeds can't play as badly as they did against Man United, and they were well short against United. United played well. How Calvin Phillips never started for Leeds, I don't know, but he's first on my team sheet every single game. But obviously they saw something different. But also United, the way United actually set up, they didn't start with Sancho, but it appeared to be a midfield just sort of glut of defensive midfielders trying to stop Leeds from touching them, and it worked. I think was it Fred, McTominay, Pogba, and then Bruno Fernandes, and it was just like between the four of them, they ran the show in midfield, and it certainly allowed sort of the fullbacks a lot of chance to get forward, allowed Greenwood a lot of space, and I'll tell you what, United were well worth the win yesterday, and I think that's a sure sign for United fans that what will come this season is I'm pretty sure that the signing of Varane will be an absolutely superb one.
I'm not sure,
even though Phil Jones won't give him the number 4 shirt.
So I don't know if this is my Liverpool glasses speaking here, but whenever I watch Pogba, whenever he's off the ball, he just seems very lazy to me. Even though he got four
assists
yesterday, but I just see him. It's just like whenever he's off the ball, it just looks like he's sloping around everywhere, moping around. It's just, is that just me or is it just really him?
No, I think that's just the way he plays. And I was listening to someone, I think, on the radio yesterday. I can't remember who the pundit was. And they were basically describing Pogba last season that he felt as if he was being a headless chicken trying to defend too much. And it looks like he's been told this season is to just play your normal game. Don't go in for them silly tackles where he looks as if he just doesn't tackle, does Pogba. Just go and be the player that actually, he wants to be. And I don't know. I think if you can get the best out of him and make him right for selling, I think that's sort of United sort of thing here. He's coming to the end of his contract. He's got an agent who'll rip $1 million out of a football club if it's there to be had. So I think in Pogba's case, I think he's probably looking at that free transfer. He'd probably go and join PSG with all the other freebies that they've accrued over this summer. all on massive wages. So who knows? Who knows? But United look good. Leeds. I'll wait until they beat Everton next week, and I'll pass comment on Leeds as they go. It just seemed a very un-Leeds-like performance yesterday, and that's.
See, I had Leeds pretty further down the table than yourself, John.
Yeah.
You always get that second season jitters, don't you? You go.
Yeah, totally.
You have that first season where you just a real surprise. You do really well. You go on and keep on being really well throughout that first season. Second season comes along and it's a bit lackluster. It's just not there. I hope I'm wrong where Leeds are concerned because they were a good team to watch last season. I hope it was just a poor start for them rather than it's a start as you mean to go on kind of scenario. But
it was uncharacteristic, I think. It was uncharacteristic of them, and I think I did hear a couple of Leeds fans talking last night, and it was funny because they got thrashed 6-0. Was it 6-0 last season or something, or 6-2 or whatever? I said, well, five's a better one than getting done by 6. So I think Leeds fans just took it for what it was, and I just think, well, I think they'll see it through. There's just 2 games we haven't touched on. I think should we do Chelsea first? Because Chelsea were playing Palace. Chelsea were playing Palace, and they just did what Chelsea seem to be doing best of all at the minute. But a big shout out for your man Pulisic as well, Charlie, because he scored their second goal.
Right place, the right time, right?
Oh, it's just superb.
Yeah.
But what was really nice was there was a lad playing for Chelsea, and was it Chalobah? And he's been at Chelsea. Was it 14 years? And he actually scored his first goal yesterday. And on Friday, I was talking about that togetherness that Chelsea seemed to have. And he scored his first goal. He didn't know how to celebrate. I think he got quite emotional about it. But all his teammates came over, and they just knew what a big moment it was for this young lad. And I just thought, that to me was such a lovely moment in the game. And he looks a player and a half. So I think as well, we've got you've got a squad there that's, the players getting games now that weren't getting games last season, and they've got players on the bench and players to come back onto the bench that they look superb. And the lad Alonso, who looked as if he was on his way out the club 12 months ago. He's back in favour. Rudiger's back in favour. They just look great, and they were a joy to watch. Palace were as poor as I thought they were going to be, and I think they probably will be most of the season.
You touch upon a good point there. It's like you can tell which teams are gelling. You can tell which ones are they get along outside of off the field. I don't get that sense with Man City this year, though. Do you get that they are like a gelled unit, or are they just a bunch of big signings trying to?
I think that's a good call, Charlie. I think there's a few factions within that dressing room.
But Chelsea, you definitely feel it. They feel like a unit. You look at them, they're like having fun. It's like it's like Tottenham was, and Liverpool. It's like I see some teams that are they're really close. You could tell outside of off the field. That makes a difference.
I agree with you, Charlie. And we could be looking at this and saying, well, I've put City on first with either Liverpool or Chelsea second or third. I think Chelsea and Liverpool. I've got Chelsea and Liverpool fighting for the second spot. But we could be seeing Liverpool and Chelsea fighting for the top spot. I think that's what you could be looking at. Because Liverpool have been together now for a number of years, so they've already got the unit. It was just a real strange season last season. Chelsea look like they've got that now, and I think you could be right with City. It's just like John says, you got little factions here, little factions over there within there.
Yeah.
And Jack Grealish is a great player, but I didn't see him as a City player. He's not someone who's going to pin.
I think he'll become an even better player for going to City. Yeah. I actually feel it. I think because of the coaching there, I think because they've got Foden, who's a very similar style of player.
Yeah.
And they got De Bruyne. I think Grealish will learn far more quickly within the City setup, and probably City really were probably looking at Grealish at maybe replacing sort of De Bruyne in a couple of seasons' time. But you couldn't afford to sit back and let another team come in and take Grealish on a 5-6 year contract when you know that you'd probably be wanting him for your team in a couple of seasons' time. So pay the money, get him used to the City way of playing, and I think in the long term, I think we'll end up seeing Grealish establish himself as an absolutely better player and an established England player because he's gone to City and he made himself better.
Is Grealish a natural left winger? What's his natural position?
But he played left for Villa, didn't he? So you see,
yeah.
I'd probably say watching us start to play, he's more of a midfielder for me, central midfield.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but it's almost like I was wondering if he's
midfield. I see him as being, but not being someone who can play ball. He just gets the ball and runs with it to the front. You know,
something in me was saying that he might be a replacement for Sterling instead of.
Very possibly.
Because Sterling, I'm reading Sterling's body language, especially when he gets put on the bench. It's just I don't think Sterling's just happy there anymore.
It's awful.
I do not want him back at Liverpool. That's for sure.
He's not actually there. I think he was. He got a bit put out of joint. Did he not put him as part of the deal for Kane?
I think they started off on that foot as well. Yeah.
Kane.
Yeah.
So he's obviously had his nose put out of joint there, but Karma, he comes around. What goes around comes around. Sterling.
Yeah.
He's done exactly the same thing at Liverpool. But for me, I wasn't getting at Grealish not becoming a great player at City. I was just like, does he fit their system? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is he the right? I just didn't see him as a City player, not because he's not good enough. I rate him highly. I think he's one of the best midfielders England's got, if not the best midfielder that they've got. What I was thinking is it's just his style of play. Does it fit the way City play? Because they like to ping it about quickly. They want the midfielders to ping it forwards rather than get it and run with it. Where Jack Grealish is very adept at getting the ball, turning and running through people. I just didn't see that as a City player. Maybe Pep's going, well, I want something different. I want someone who's going to be able to do that for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to something I said earlier in the show, and I think Pep got his team selection well wrong today. I don't know what this fascination is. He keeps trying to play Nathan Ake and trying to get him into the first team squad. And every time I've seen him play for City, they don't play well. And I just feel that he's not City class. To have Stones sat on the bench and Ake playing, I think was wrong. I think it probably shows a little bit of disrespect towards Spurs as well. But I think Ake for me is the player that there are a couple of them I would say that City possibly need to move on, and if they're serious this season, they've got to start. I think Pep's certainly got to start looking at what his best 11, playing his best 11 from the start, and actually getting the result before you start making all of these strange decisions as to squad rotation and this and the other. It's bizarre, it really is.
Maybe this type of the signings that they're doing, like they're going English a lot, aren't they? They're going homegrown a lot, like they get.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because now you've got to have like a certain amount of homegrown players as well. You've also now politically we've left the European Union, so a European player can't just come here without getting a visa and getting all the checks done. And there's them rules, isn't it? You've got to have played for the national team so many times or a percentage of the time to be able to get a work permit, So that's all now for the European. So any player from like France, Spain, Germany, Italy, they've all got to go through that same vetting now. They can't just come here based on the passport. So
and we're maybe not going to see those signings where players are just bought because somebody's seen them play on a video and they played in the French league for 3 seasons, or they played in Spain for one of the lower teams, and then we'll spend $5 million and get them across. But because if they've not got the accreditation to actually get a visa, then it might change what teams can actually afford to do.
Yeah. That's it.
So I'm gonna move us on, guys, because I'm aware time possibly will get the better of us as always. But we've saved the best till last, and as big supporters of the mighty bees, Brentford on Friday night kicked our season off with the most fantastic results. And I'd take my hat off to Brentford, and I think what a fantastic win. But I tell you what, I think Arteta's on thin ice, and I think I know I said about Steve Bruce and the big fat Sam CV being fired in at Newcastle. I think Arsenal looked absolutely appalling on Friday night, and if anyone's watching and they're an Arsenal fan, I do apologise, but it was a laughable display, and they've got players there. You know, there's some players in that team that are very, very good footballers, and yet they didn't perform. They didn't turn up. They didn't look as if they'd seen each other all summer. It was
watching the coverage from Brentford. That's what I love about the game. You get these smaller teams that just came up. To them, this is like everything. And you can see the fans. You can see when they put the cameras on the fans, and they're, the old guys crying and stuff like that, and they're singing. They got their banners up and their scarves up, and it's like it's everything to them, and I love that. And then they're singing, they're all cheering, and then the coach goes over, and he's like, oh, and it's like all the little kids and everything. That's what I love about the game.
Yeah, and that shone through, didn't it?
Yeah. The beauty about Brentford, I think they're going to be this year's Leeds, because the football they played on Friday night was good. But also, it just to put how big that is, Charlie, what you say, the smaller teams that come in, it's everything. Brentford were in the top flight for only a couple of years after the Second World War, and they've only just got back into it this year. That's how long they've been out of the top flight. So for them to get back in and do a performance like they did on Friday against Arsenal, who was supposed to be one of the best teams in the league, one of the top two. Well, it's a big club, isn't it? So for them to do that was brilliant. Well, touching on Arsenal,
they can bring it every. Hopefully, they can bring it every week.
I hope so.
Hopefully they don't fall off or whatever.
Definitely, because
I don't think they will, Charlie, because actually I think the manager has got them playing. It's one of those things, a little bit like the lad at Norwich. He has them playing to a system. He has them playing to a set way of working, whereas Norwich don't seem to have much firepower up front. Brentford up front looked absolutely spot on. They looked as if they could score another 2 or 3.
That's why I got them in the top 10.
Top 10. A little bit further down now. But so going on to Arteta and Arsenal, I think Arteta has a style of play that he wants to play. But what he's forgetting as a manager, as a young manager, is he's not playing to his players' strengths.
Yeah.
He's not playing to their strengths. He's not getting the best out of the players because the players aren't being played in the best way for them. He's got a style of play, and I appreciate he's got a style of play, and he thinks that's the best way to win football games. Well, actually, the best way to win football games is to play to your players' strengths. If your players' strengths are like all 6.5 foot and built, really big, and defensive, sitting back for 90 minutes and hitting on the counter rate is your strength. Doing ticky-tacky football isn't, and I don't think Arsenal got the players to do his style of football. So he needs to adapt his tactics, but I don't think he can. I think Arteta's a one-trick pony where management is concerned, and that's where it's going to be his downfall. That he'll end up losing his job early.
I agree. I think he's in big trouble. He's going to start losing whatever faith he had from his senior players. It hasn't happened. Like if your managing style doesn't start showing results, 2-3 years, they start falling off with the faith of the senior players, and everything falling apart after that.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a good call, that as well, and I think. I know Aubameyang didn't play on Friday night, and Lacazette didn't play on Friday night because they were both ill. But again, I think that goes back to Ozil was at Arsenal, and he was choosing as and when he decided he wanted to play. And I don't know enough about what behind the scenes at Arsenal to actually come out and say it, but I really fear for Arteta, a fantastic football player. But I wonder if give him a few games like they had on Friday. Well, that really black hair that he keeps dyeing and all that. But I wonder if his hair will be more my colour. If he lasts till Christmas, his hair will be like mine. It'll be grey, and he'll have a big bald patch where he keeps tearing his hair out at some of the players that he's got.
Right, brilliant. Right, that's the hour up. We've talked about every game, I think. Covered everything. I think it is hard at this hard stage of the season because all you do is talking about one particular game. You haven't had a run of games to be able to reflect on, which we'll get in a few weeks. But I think first week has not been too bad. I think it's been a good game, good set of games. Fans are back. Some things haven't changed. Arsenal,
Newcastle, Steve Bruce.
I think we'll see. I think Crystal Palace is going to struggle this year, like I said, and I think Wolves will struggle. I think there will be teams who are going to struggle. There'll be teams that do well. But what I'm looking forward to is seeing. I think the top 4 fight could be a good one this year. Because, like I said, I think Tottenham's definitely in the mix for that. With Man United, of course, and dare I say, don't
forget West Ham. Don't forget West Ham.
Rafa Benitez, he has this.
It'll make me glass half empty look at being an Evertonian change, maybe. But who knows?
If he gets you top 4, he won't be sat there in an Alan cardigan with the cigar sticking out of his mouth.
No chance. You get the freedom of the city of Liverpool if he does that. I tell you.
You know what? He could go on and replace that cuckoo clock of yours and get the actual European going.
Hey, don't you worry. In Rafa, we trust.
I think my highlight of this season is going to be the Anfield derby when the Liverpool fans are chanting the Everton manager. It's just going to be a weird and strange sensation. Yeah. There's one thing's for certain: he will not get booed. He will not get booed, even for going to Everton. He's an absolute legend at Liverpool. They're very highly thought of. And in fact, I'd be very surprised if he gets booed, to be honest. I don't think
I'd say, just before we do finish, Stephen, I'll leave you with a nice little Evertonian aside. It was just like I woke up yesterday morning, as you do, you're sort of straight on your phone, and then you wonder why on Twitter, #RafaOut was trending, and he hadn't even, managed one game in the Premier League for Everton, and already the #RafaOut was trending. I just thought he just couldn't make it up. It's just like true Everton spirit,
Did you not see all the banners outside the Goodison Park when it was all just before he'd signed? And he's saying, don't sign. Yeah. I mean, I don't think the Liverpool fans wanted them to sign because it was like gut wrenching. A manager that you think so highly of has gone to your biggest city rival there, and it's like no. But
it'll see us through the season. Don't you worry.
I understood why he's done it because he's never hid his passion and his love for the city of Liverpool. Yeah, he never has. He's never hid it. So I think the Liverpool job's not. It's just out of his reach. You know what I mean? So he had to settle for second best, John, and go for it.
Yeah. Hey, you couldn't resist.
No, it's just that little thing there. No, but it's been a great weekend, Danny. It's been a great weekend.
It certainly has. It's been great to have the football back and with the fans. Just
and the fans back.
Yeah.
It's made a big difference.
On that note, we'll end it there and we'll see you next week.
See you next Sunday.